Well, hello everyone. Here to show you the Amazing Spider-Man sequels coloring activity right here. As we say, is a picture right here that I went ahead and drew right here. And it's basically that you talk about is that variety of colors. I went ahead and add the green, and then of course the purple, and then the blue, and then of course not too much yellow, but then a lot of purple and black. You say around the say eyes. You say the mask it is of on Spider-Man it is. But you have right here is that with I can go use the pink right here. But anyway, that basically talking about with sequels. It's like if most of us have seen from the movie the Amazing Spider-Man 2 it was as basically that I could maybe what say it's like talking about that anybody would probably think about it's like that if you were to go to the internet sites it is to share your feedback it is, but basically that knowing about with my opinion of course about movie sequels it is, which anybody can maybe think about that if they're going to be doing a movie sequel it's like if it's a sequel to any some superhero movie it is, if it's related to like maybe a cartoon, anybody probably think about with most kids that maybe that they would like to maybe have a see a cartoon maybe be released on Blu-ray or DVD or something like that. Or I can maybe give some examples of what you say any other type of entertainment player. It is just like if there's going to be a media player, there's going to be a media player. It's like a type of movie player that plays cartoons such as the T-Hawkian or something like that player. It's like talking about which I heard that types of movies that would come on like what you call like a little disc, maybe about that size right there, that would be able to hold maybe about at least a disc about that size that would go into a player. It is that would hold at least 3,000 you say 3,000 gigs you say of memory to where you could put like about maybe 2 or 3 movies on there. They're about 3 minutes long. It is. Anybody probably think about like with Blu-rays it is like the things that you normally like to see. Of course it's like for like any type of movies it was if you were to buy maybe a copy of maybe Captain America, or if anything related to like you see Batman type superhero it is. But the type of superhero that of course I picked of course was the Amazing Spider-Man, and knowing about with most of the time with most sequels that I can tell anybody here from my experience about knowing about with the movie that with the Amazing Spider-Man is that I was reading of course an article about that some with some viewers that they were saying that with about the movie that some say that it was kind of you say a little bit kind of a disappointment it was, and that there were some scenes of course that they thought that maybe that I don't know that didn't really make no sense or anything like that, or maybe they didn't explain the whole part of the story it was, but according to my opinion of course about with sequels though that I guess with anybody will probably think about not all sequels are going to be successful. It is that there are some sequels that it's like you put a lot of time and money into, and then knowing the fact about that there's something that don't go right. It is that apparently that maybe people were just wanting to see it bad enough to where that there could have been some glitches of course inside maybe the scripts or anything like that. But other than that from my feedback of course about the movie, which I thought it was pretty good on the other hand too, that knowing about from the basic part scenes from the first one it was is that knowing about that if any story like I would think anybody would probably think about that maybe that they tied too many villains into one movie, like the first one that they only had one villain it was, and I thought maybe that they would have had a little bit more detail about Peter Parker. It's like taking the pictures of course of crimes going on around the scene. It's like parts of New York it was, but apparently that this had a few parts of course showing that scene, and few parts. Anybody who maybe think about that they had a lot of parts in there, but if I can remember right, whenever I was watching the movie it was that I can maybe remember about maybe 5 or 6 parts that they were talking about. It's like the Daily Bugle it was. But other than that, like talk about right here is you got the different colors right here of you say of the Amazing Spider-Man. But the way I would think about with most sequels is that anybody would probably think about that. Hey, if you're going to do a sequel, then have it to where there's only one villain. About between whatever the requirements, of course, about that with most superhero movies is about if you're going to do a sequel, they have to have the original actors and of course maybe the original scripts it is and anybody would probably think about that maybe that's not gonna get amaze the audience too much. It's like talking about that there may be some things that are pretty a disappointment too about it. It's like knowing about that maybe just too many villains, or anybody probably think about that maybe the movie was just not long enough. It's like that there was about maybe altogether about an hour and 25 minutes of the movie to where that there's really high tech action, and then there may be some boring parts of it. But from the Amazing Spider-Man 2, though, anybody will probably think about that with most of the time, if the characters, the villains that they matched up with the comic books, if I can remember right, that anybody will probably think about, if I can remember right, about Electro. That with the Electro, that from what I remember about from the comic books, is that he actually Electro got struck by lightning. It was, but then it looked like in the movie that he was actually working on on the power the power plant over there at over there at I think Oscorp. I guess the plant Oscorp tower it is working in Oscorp building, and then wind up again zapped by a power transmitter it was. But the way I would think about it is that I thought maybe that they would show a part where he actually got struck by lightning. And anyway, yeah, if they would have maybe used like a villain such as Electro, I would have thought that maybe that he was working on a power line maybe during the rainstorm, a heavy rainstorm, and got hit by a bolt of lightning, and that's how he gained his electrical powers. It was how he gained his source of power, for his powered suit. It was. But knowing about anybody would probably think about whenever they're going to make a movie that they may not exactly match everything in the comic books, maybe in the original script, but on the other hand, too, the way I think about it is that with the special effects that anybody would probably think about with most movies, that a lot of times that you would expect real good special effects. You say so far as the sequels go, and anybody would probably think about that what you learn about so far as knowing about with any type of superhero comics it is of knowing about that whenever I was a kid it was that. Remember, my teacher will be like that. Talk about a superhero it is, and I think about that like with any type of superhero, with any kid will probably think about that. They would pick a superhero and think about what they do, and of course about what they wear it is, and with anybody will probably think about that. That it kind of reminds me of that movie. It's besides The Hunchback of Notre Dame, any type of Disney movie it is, like you have maybe a few Disney movies, but like with Halloween coming up though, that anybody probably think about is like if you want to, maybe get maybe a T-shirt or something like that, get a picture, something like that. But I like talking about with Peter Parker, taking a picture or something. But other than that, like talking about anybody probably think about like that maybe. Get a shirt, to go along with it, or maybe a pair of pants or something like that with one of your favorite, superhero comics, say characters on the front of it. It is. But the way I think about with most sequels, anybody will probably think about with one thing that, of course, that they're more likely that maybe that they would expect, of course, other than what you say with special effects it is, that anybody would probably think about that if it's going to be a video game or if it's going to be anything related to maybe a DVD or a Blu-ray copy, or if it's if it's going to be maybe anything related to online, anybody could probably think about it. Like I've heard of Ultraviolet. If you could maybe watch movies anywhere you go, it is that anybody probably think about it. It's that like such as maybe Pirates of the Caribbean. I know they had a few sequels of for Pirates of the Caribbean, but at the time, it's like I know like what to say was of Spider-Man, and of course with Iron Man, and a few other Marvel comic movies, of course, that they had, and it's like that yeah. And I don't know if I mentioned before that so far they have not made, like I say, a Mega Man movie. I'm wondering if they're going to be making like what you call like a Mega Man movie, that have it to where Mega Man, and have like a villain. You say you have a Mega Man, Mega Man character it is, but if they're going to be doing maybe a Mega Man movie or anything like that, but I guess say anything that you could think about, more likely give them time, more likely they'll probably have something later on. But like with Spider-Man, though, that with sequels, though, that I guess so far as the requirements, and of course what's recommended, of course, just to be able to make a sequel successful, and more likely anybody will probably think about that there has not been no sequel that was really amazing. It's like if anything, it has to happen at that certain part, you say, of for whenever it was released, and of course from when it was in production it was. But on the other hand, too, the way I would think about it is that with anybody will probably think about that I usually buy movies just because it's like with the special effects, and knowing about if it would have came with another movie, and then knowing about that there was a part of the scene, it's like anybody would probably think about that it didn't think that looked very good in the theaters. It was it didn't. It actually looked like it was kind of kind of okay in the theaters, and then by the time it came out on video, it was. Some people may say that, hey, it's like that. Talk about between the ups and the downs, of course, about with most of these movies. It is whenever a movie is released that we can more likely think about whenever a movie is released that you're probably not going to go ahead and you're not going to spend the $20 or so extra dollars just to get a copy of it. But the way I would think about with most of the time if maybe if you can get a good buy, maybe if it's like what you call, it's like 2 for $5 at the store. A lot of times anybody would probably think about 2 for $5 or anything like that. I could probably tell anybody here that I think this is a true story too, that kind of like Spider-Man, if I would have seen bottle of, if I would have seen him maybe on shampoo, or maybe if it was bubble bath, anybody would probably think about any type of character it is. If you would have been in the store, it is shopping around. That's like if I would have seen him maybe on a pack of gum, or maybe on a roll of toilet paper, or maybe on a bottle of shampoo, then I would think that maybe it would be kind of neat looking. And knowing about anybody probably think about, have you seen the movie? It's like, well, maybe you can, take a trivia, do a trivia game. It's like, if you've seen the movie before, by like, who was the fiance of Peter Parker? You say from the first and second, you say, episode of, for the Amazing Spider-Man or anything like that. And I do like a trivia game, and I could probably tell anybody here that I don't think I would do so well, of course, in any trivia games, really, that I don't think I would be able to answer too many of the questions. But anybody would probably think about that if they may have seen the movie maybe a number of times, it was, as so far as is talking about, it's like so far as anybody probably think about do like a game, an activity game. And anybody probably think about if there's going to be any type of a movie released, such as The Amazing Spider-Man, or if it's Thor, or if it's Captain America, or maybe if I can maybe pick a name at random, maybe make one up. It's like what you call, it's like the Costco Maconzian or something like that, or something like that. Maybe Enchanted, whatever it is, any type of superhero movie it is that we could probably think about that. That the whole part about why the sequel was maybe not so successful was maybe because it's like that they put too many villains, of course. They put too many villains, of course, inside the movie. It's like that we could probably think about that there could be maybe a number of best friends, and then of course some allies, and then and then of course maybe some characters inside the movie who were what you call family related. at the time, I wonder, if Peter Parker would have had a brother or sister. A lot of times, it's like after they were bitten by one of those radioactive spiders, it was. Any of us would probably think about that, if Peter Parker would have had a cousin or maybe a brother or sister, it is, and talk about if they were bitten by what you call a spider, it was, and be like, hey, are you going to call that, person, the amazing spider Parker or something like that, or the amazing spider cousin or something like that? But anybody maybe think about that? Nah. More likely that it'd be like, maybe a Carnage character, it is. It's like you would say a Halloween character, it is. Like a Carnage character. That you're going to have it to where that if they were bitten by, say, maybe one of those spiders it was, and then the next thing you know, it's like that they may not need their glasses anymore. If they were wearing glasses, they may not need their glasses anymore. But on the hand too, you would like wear, like, so say, a type of mask to where they can see, things around them. It is, to be able to stop crimes and stuff like that. Take pictures, of course, of different parts. You say of the different crime scenes, and anybody can more likely think about that if Spider-Man did have, like, what you call is like a brother or a sister or a cousin, it is, bitten by a spider. Anybody probably think about that about almost anybody inside those movies would turn into different things, like maybe Carnage, Venom, or whichever it is, and be like that, where Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, can climb walls, but then this other character, of course, grows it to where he can grow fangs, and then actually, jump from wall to wall. He can grow fangs, and if he was what you call is like he or she was a type of a friend, if one of Peter Parker's friends, it was. Anybody probably think about that anything that was related to the comic book, but on the other hand, too, the way I think about with most sequels, though, that with most sequels that we could probably think about, at least I think about, is that hey, it's whenever they're going to do a sequel, it is that the most of the time that the question is usually, did you like it better than the first one, or is it about the same? And some people probably say about that, the first one was definitely the best. The first one was all right. The second one was all right. It had its ups and downs, but the way I would think about it is like, that about almost every movie, of course, that they say that if it's going to be a remake, or if it's going to be a reboot, or if it's going to be a sequel, it is that more likely you probably think about knowing about the type of creativity, anybody, the special effects it is, and the way I would think about, I like that really with every any movie maker that they may have ideas about what they can do, of course, with showing parts of, say, of movies, such as making films and stuff like that. It's like talking about for whatever character that does what it is, and knowing about that, I'm sure that anybody would probably think about that if they were to have a new film, it is, other than maybe a film that they may have already seen, of course, coming back into the theaters, maybe in 3D. But on the other hand, too, it's like if there's, say, to answer the question about so far as between the sequel and maybe a remake, it is. In a lot of ways, it's like that, at the time, I wonder, I'm like, if they were to do a remake on a movie, it is, maybe a remake on a cartoon, I'm like, talking about that anybody who maybe have a new idea, maybe they can talk to them, other than, they're going to go ahead and carry on with the remake. I can tell anybody here that, they probably had about, 4 or 5 remakes, of course, of King Kong. And I don't know if they're going to maybe have a remake about the Hulk, or, the Incredible Hulk, or if they're going to maybe have a remake about Spawn. If anybody remembers Spawn, I don't know if he was really a Marvel comic character or not, but with Spawn, about Spawn. But anyway, these different characters right here of talk about with the Amazing Spider-Man sequel, it is known about that the amount of villains, of course, that they used. And with anybody probably think about, are all villains required to something were to happen to where all of them required to be eliminated by Spider-Man, or is it the fact about that hey, it's like that that they're that they just vanish or whatever. But anyway, for September, see right today's date. But for September the 26th it is. But anyway, that you have right here is like talk about with Spider-Man, and anybody I think about it is like, yeah, so far as it's like with the so far the activity it is. The activity game it is knowing about the fact about it. It's like our sequels, like most sequels that anybody probably think about it so far as for the good entertainment. So far as talk about it right here, the Amazing Spider-Man sequels and coloring activity.